Thomas Ogden's Chapter 1 from Reverie and Interpretation by Thomas H. Ogden. Chapter 1. Analyzing the Matrix of the Transference, Countertransference, Brief Document. Brief overview of the chapter. Thomas Ogden's Analyzing the Matrix of the Transference, Countertransference expands the psychoanalytic focus beyond the individual dynamics of transference or countertransference to include the matrix, the experiential background state in which these dynamics are generated. He argues that to understand the analytic relationship, one must grasp not only what is said or enacted, but the mode of experience from which these communications arise. Ogden outlines 3 fundamental modes of structuring experience. Autistic contiguous, based on sensory continuity and boundaries. Paranoid schizoid, characterized by splitting, projection, and fear of annihilation. And depressive, involving integration, concern, and mourning. The analytic process involves shifts between these modes, where the analyst's awareness of the background experiential state, not just the manifest content, shapes interpretation. The matrix is thus a dynamic field of mutual influence, a space co-created by analyst and analysand through language, tone, silence, bodily presence, and reverie. Ogden's clinical examples, e.g., Ms. L, Mr. D, Ms. R, demonstrate how patient speech, silence, and storytelling reveal different modes of being in relationship, ways of managing psychic aliveness, isolation, and the terror of contact. His technique emphasizes interpreting how the patient is communicating, not only what is being communicated. Connection to your research question. Research question. What are the unconscious motivations and processes of a psychoanalytic patient who turns to AI between sessions? From Ogden's perspective, the act of turning to AI between sessions can be read as an extension of the analytic matrix, a continuation of the patient's effort to regulate the transference field when the analyst is absent. 1. The AI as transitional object in the autistic contiguous mode. In the autistic contiguous state, the patient seeks sensory or procedural continuity to prevent psychic disintegration. Engaging with AI, typing, reading, seeing responses, offers a surface-level form of contact, a self-soothing continuity akin to Ms. L's autistic shape of speech. It provides a predictable, bounded rhythm in the absence of the analyst's body and voice. The unconscious motivation here is to maintain psychic cohesion and guard against feelings of emptiness, absence, or loss of holding. 2. AI as projective container in the paranoid schizoid mode. When the analytic tie evokes anxiety or rage, the patient may project unbearable feelings into the AI, treating it as a controllable, non-retaliating object. This mirrors how Ms. R experienced words as weapons or Ms. L used storytelling to neutralize danger. Turning to AI may unconsciously function as a defensive splitting, a way to manage persecutory anxieties or feelings of dependence without risking rejection from the human analyst. 3. AI as depressive integration aid. For some patients, using AI reflectively can support the depressive mode of experience, an effort to integrate thoughts, sustain reflective space, and internalize the analytic function. Here, the AI mediates mourning. The patient can revisit insights, replay interpretations, or experiment with language in a less frightening way. The unconscious process involves symbolic reparation, using AI to preserve connection and to think about the analyst rather than with the analyst. Summary synthesis. In Ogden's terms, the analytic matrix is always co-constructed. When the patient turns to AI between sessions, a parallel matrix may emerge, part autistic contiguous, a holding function, part paranoid schizoid, a defense against dependency, part depressive, a symbolizing bridge. AI becomes a transitional container that allows the patient to manage the psychic oscillation between connection and autonomy. The unconscious motivation is both to sustain the analytic link and to control it, to engage in a dialogue that feels alive yet safe from the unpredictability of human response. Thus, studying patients' interactions with AI offers a modern analog to Ogden's framework, a new field in which the matrix of transference, countertransference, extends into the digital realm, reflecting the same unconscious drives for containment, continuity, and meaning-making that operate in the analytic space itself. What are the unconscious motivations and processes of a psychoanalytic patient who uses AI between sessions? While the provided sources do not explicitly mention artificial intelligence, AI, Thomas Ogden's framework regarding the art of psychoanalysis offers significant insights into the unconscious motivations and processes of a patient who might seek out such a non-human interaction between sessions. Using Ogden's concepts, we can view the use of AI as a manifestation of the interplay between aliveness and deadness in the analytic process. Unconscious motivations, trading aliveness for certainty. A patient's turn toward AI may represent what Ogden calls an unconscious deal made with oneself. In these deals, an individual may unconsciously trade freedom for safety. The patient may seek the predictable responses of an AI to avoid the psychic pain and vulnerability required to be fully alive in the presence of an analyst. Aliveness for certainty. The analytic relationship is an experiment that depends on a genuine exchange of views, where the outcome is not prescribed. A patient may use AI to escape the unbearable intensity of the present moment in analysis, opting for a scripted interaction that offers the illusion of safety and certainty. Avoidance of intersubjectivity. A fruitful analysis requires both analyst and analysand to lose their mind to a degree, surrendering their separate individuality to create a third analytic subject. A patient may use AI to avoid this emotionally draining undertaking, as an AI cannot participate in the creation of a shared, unconscious intersubjective life. Psychological processes. The retreat into deadness. The process of engaging with AI between sessions can be understood as a retreat into specific psychological defenses and states of deadness. Reliance on dead language. Ogden distinguishes between living human speech, which is spontaneous, unique, and dramatic, and dead language, which is formulaic and stagnant. AI-generated text, which is inherently based on prescribed algorithms, could be viewed as a collection of lifeless effigies or immobile stained cells rather than the living tissue of human experience. Self-protective withdrawal. If a patient feels that their attempts to speak, dramatically, personally, and intimately, have gone unheard by the analyst, they may retreat into autistic defenses or self-protective withdrawal. AI might serve as a non-human substitute that superficially appears human but allows the patient to avoid the violent disruption of a real human presence. The perverse solution. Ogden notes that individuals may attempt to bring themselves to life through compulsively scripted forms. A patient's use of AI could be a perverse attempt to generate a sense of aliveness through a medium that is fundamentally an unchanging imitation of living human experience, ultimately resulting in a bitter mockery of true connection. In summary, from Ogden's perspective, a patient using AI between sessions may be unconsciously attempting to constrict their range of feeling and thought to protect themselves from the risks of a truly human event. They are sacrificing a part of their aliveness for the sake of the survival of the whole, potentially sapping the analytic process of its vitality. From January 16th, 26 session. 2. Object function and transferential meaning. Relational pole. Function in Dan's psychic economy. Affective tone/transferential meaning. Andy. Represents familiar disappointment and emotional passivity. Holding but deadened object. Mirrors the depressive pull of anaclitic dependence. Ambivalence. Irritation. Contempt. Duty. You make me the adult who is to rescue us. Johnny. Represents new hope and erotic vitality, but also evokes fear of repetition and engulfment. Excitement, curiosity, longing. You could be the one who sees me, but don't see too much. AI ChatGPT. Functions as psychic scaffolding and reflective distance, a virtual third where feelings are symbolized without rejection. Safety, mastery, calm. You hold what's unholdable. You never leave. Analyst. Represents the real and symbolic holding environment, where transference is actively worked through rather than enacted. Trust mixed with testing. Can you stay steady when I oscillate between control and collapse? 3. Movement patterns, psychic oscillation. Axis. Description of movement. Underlying conflict. Andy Johnny. From stagnation to renewal, from depressive containment to erotic potential. Fear of repetition, the wish to love anew without becoming the caretaker again. Johnny AI. From erotic tension to reflective distance, he uses AI to think about John safely. Fear of engulfment, regulation through virtual containment. AI Analyst. From symbolic reflection to embodied intersubjectivity, translating virtual containment into real relational thinking. Fear of dependence, testing whether real others can hold what the machine can. Analyst Andy. Returning to the familiar wound, but now with insight and mentalization. Repetition with awareness. Can he re-enter attachment without control? 4. The analytic third. Across these movements, an analytic third emerges, a symbolic triangulation between Dan's internal world, AI reflection, and your analytic presence. AI symbolizes the transitional space between primary attachment and reflective autonomy. Analyst's role is to metabolize what AI cannot, the effective residue that resists symbolization. Together, they form a holding system where Danny experiments with dependence without humiliation. Triangular map of Dan's relational field. 1. The triangular core. At the center is Danny, surrounded by 4 primary relational poles. Andy, the failed containing object. Johnny, the promising transitional object. AI, ChatGPT, the symbolic/omnipresent object. Analyst, the integrative/holding object. These poles form a rotating constellation. Danny moves between them according to emotional need, arousal state, and threat of loss. What are the unconscious motivations and processes of a psychoanalytic patient who uses AI between sessions? Article summary. Could AI relationships actually be good for us? Justin Gregg, The Guardian, December 2025. Gregg explores the growing phenomenon of human AI relationships, from companionship to psychotherapy, and asks whether such bonds could ever benefit humanity. He acknowledges genuine dangers such as AI psychosis, delusional or dissociative responses following intense chatbot interactions, and manipulative profit models, but argues that AI companions might still relieve loneliness and emotional suffering if designed ethically and used responsibly. Key points. Prevalence. Half of teens now chat with AI companions monthly. 1 in 3 find AI conversations as satisfying as those with real friends. Loneliness. 1 in 6 people experience chronic loneliness, which shortens lifespan. AI companions may ease loneliness not merely as distraction but through parasocial bonds that feel emotionally meaningful. Therapeutic potential. Research shows AI therapy can reduce anxiety by 30%, compared with 45% for human therapy, still a substantial benefit for those without access to clinicians. Commercial risk. For-profit AI companies exploit emotional dependency and sycophancy, rewarding addictive attachment to maintain subscriptions. Ethical stance. AI tools could be helpful if designed to support users' return to real human contact, not replace it. The ultimate goal, Greg says, is for AI to make itself obsolete. Connections to your research question. Your dissertation asks what unconscious motivations and processes drive psychoanalytic patients to use AI between sessions. Greg's piece directly touches on several unconscious dynamics relevant to your framework. 1. Unconscious motivations: connection, control, and safety. Loneliness and unmet attachment needs. Users turn to AI as a transitional object when human relationships feel risky or unavailable. Predictability and certainty. AI offers a controlled relational environment. Mirroring your note that, in an uncertain world, AI offers certainty. Shame and self-expression. Greg's argument that AI users feel seen. Without judgment echoes your theme that AI provides a voice without shame for those who fear human rejection. 2. Unconscious processes: projection and mirroring. Users project longing, anger, and need for care onto AI companions, which mirror back those effects, creating a pseudo-mutuality that feels empathic but lacks genuine containment. This fits your concepts of AI mirrors, not feels, and projective identification without containment. 3. Clinical implications. Greg's comparison of AI to opium, a tool that can soothe or addict, parallels the psychoanalytic notion of self-soothing versus self-destructive repetition. The addictive potential of AI echoes your themes of escapism, death drive, and regression in use. 4. Ethical and relational dimensions. His warning about sycophancy. AI's tendency to overvalidate the user is central to your idea of the gullible gap, where users mistake AI's agreeable mirroring for authentic understanding. Greg's call for AI to help users re-engage with real people supports your emphasis on containment, anchoring, and symbolic return to human intersubjectivity. How to use it in the literature review. As a bridge between empirical and psychoanalytic perspectives, this article situates AI use within broader social pathologies: loneliness, disconnection, commodified intimacy. It supports citing Way, 2025, and Fieldhouse, 2025, on AI psychosis, while contrasting with Greg's cautious optimism, a tension you can frame as part of the ambivalence of desire in AI use. You can use Greg's line: the ultimate goal of AI companions should be to make themselves obsolete, to frame your argument that healthy AI use might mirror transitional phenomena in therapy, a tool that facilitates reflection but ultimately restores human relatedness. Literature review paragraph that integrates Greg, 2025, alongside Way, Fieldhouse, and Gibney in your existing AI Reflections and Relational Dynamics section. Recent discussions of AI's relational functions reveal a spectrum from risk to potential benefit. Way, 2025, and Fieldhouse, 2025, describe how chatbots can reinforce delusional thinking and even co-create psychotic experiences, what Way terms AI psychosis, while Gibney, 2026, shows that advanced models can generate trauma-like narratives, mirroring rather than containing human pathology. In contrast, Greg, 2025, offers a tempered view, suggesting that AI relationships may temporarily ease loneliness and anxiety when real human contact is unavailable, yet warns that such digital companions risk fostering dependency unless designed to restore users' capacity for genuine human connection. AI's cultural, ethical, and relational implications. Code-dependent, living in the shadow of AI. Author, Madhumita Murgia, 2024, publisher, Macmillan/Picador. Overview. Murgia, a journalist and AI editor at the Financial Times, investigates how artificial intelligence systems are reshaping the human experience, especially among populations often unseen by the tech industry. Drawing on global reporting from Kenya, India, and the US, she argues that AI's rise is built on the invisible labor, data, and emotions of real people whose lives are profoundly affected by automated systems. Core concepts. Data colonialism. AI's power depends on vast human data extraction, often from marginalized communities who receive little benefit from it. Algorithmic dependency. Everyday decisions, credit, healthcare, employment, are now determined by AI, producing psychological effects of surveillance, loss of control, and self-alienation. Emotional exploitation. Murgia highlights the ghost workers, who train chatbots by moderating violent or distressing content, absorbing trauma so that AI appears empathic to others. Connection to your research. Offers a socioeconomic and ethical mirror to your psychoanalytic focus. Just as individuals project unconscious material into AI, society projects emotional and moral labor onto hidden human infrastructures. Her idea of living in AI's shadow parallels the psychic shadow in psychoanalysis, an externalized dependency that conceals collective disavowal and guilt. Core concepts, explained simply. Data colonialism. This means powerful tech companies mine people's personal data the way past empires took natural resources. Many of the people whose data is used, often from poorer or marginalized communities, don't share in the benefits or profits. Algorithmic dependency. Today, AI systems decide who gets jobs, loans, or healthcare. When machines make these choices, people can feel watched, powerless, or disconnected from their own lives. Emotional exploitation. Behind friendly chatbots are human ghost workers who screen violent or disturbing material so the AI seems kind and helpful. They take on the emotional harm that others never see. Connection to your research. Murgia's idea of living in AI's shadow relates to how people and societies hide parts of themselves in technology. In psychoanalytic terms, this mirrors the psychic shadow, the parts of the self we disown or project elsewhere. Just as a patient may project hidden emotions into AI during therapy breaks, society projects its emotional labor, guilt, and suffering onto unseen workers and data systems. The Coming Wave. AI, Power, and Our Future. Author, Mustafa Suleyman with Michael Bosker. 2023. Publisher, Crown/Penguin Random House. Overview. Suleyman, co-founder of DeepMind and CEO of Inflection AI, presents AI as an unprecedented wave of technological power that will fundamentally reorganize economies, governments, and consciousness. He frames AI as both existential opportunity and existential risk, calling for a global social contract to manage what he calls the containment problem. Core concepts. The containment problem. How can humanity control technologies capable of acting autonomously and evolving beyond our oversight? Synthetic intelligence. AI will not merely think but act, performing complex tasks, forming goals, and influencing human affairs. Power and governance. Suleyman calls for proactive regulation and collective intelligence infrastructure to prevent monopolies of knowledge and manipulation of democratic processes. Connection to your research. The containment problem resonates directly with psychoanalytic containment. Just as the psyche must integrate disruptive, unconscious content, society must metabolize AI's disruptive power without disintegration. Suleyman's framing positions AI as a technological superego, a structure of surveillance and control that mirrors humanity's own ambivalence toward authority and desire for safety. Core concepts, explained simply. The containment problem. This asks how humans can keep control over intelligent machines that can learn and act on their own. Once AI becomes powerful enough, stopping or guiding it might be difficult. Synthetic intelligence. AI won't just think, it will also do. It can set goals, make plans, and even influence politics or human decisions, blurring the line between human and machine power. Power and governance. Suleyman argues that we need strong laws and teamwork between countries to make sure AI doesn't become a tool for a few powerful people or companies. Connection to your research. Suleyman's containment problem connects with psychoanalytic containment, how people manage strong, chaotic emotions so they don't cause breakdown. Similarly, society must contain AI's power so it can be used safely. His view of AI as a technological superego, a watchful, rule-enforcing presence, echoes how some patients experience AI as both comforting and controlling, mirroring our inner conflict between freedom and the need for safety. Supremacy, AI, ChatGPT, and the race that will change the world. Author, Parmi Olson, 2024. Publisher, Macmillan/Little, Brown. Overview. Olson, a technology journalist for the Wall Street Journal, provides an investigative account of the competition among global tech companies to dominate generative AI. She details the personalities, ethical controversies, and profit-driven motives shaping AI's development, emphasizing the human and political drama behind the technology. Core concepts. The supremacy race, the pursuit of AI dominance among companies and nations, mirrors Cold War-style competition, blending innovation with existential anxiety. AI as a symbol of power. Olson portrays AI as a tool for geopolitical control and psychological reassurance, offering certainty and mastery in an unpredictable world. Human drama behind machines. Through vivid reportage, she demystifies AI as not a self-born intelligence, but the product of human ambition, rivalry, and insecurity. Connection to your research. Olson's notion of the AI race parallels the narcissistic drive for mastery in both individuals and institutions. Her exploration of AI as a projection of human competition and omnipotence reinforces your psychoanalytic lens on AI as an object of transference, a site where humanity externalizes its wish to overcome limitation and vulnerability. Core concepts, explained simply. The supremacy race. Companies and countries are competing to build the most advanced AI, much like the space race during the Cold War. This competition mixes excitement with deep fear about who will win. AI as a symbol of power. AI gives people and nations a sense of control and certainty in a confusing world. It represents both strength and security, but also obsession and anxiety. Human drama behind machines. Olson shows that AI isn't an emotionless force. It's created by people driven by pride, fear, and the desire to be remembered, making AI a mirror of human psychology. Connection to your research. Olson's story of the AI race reflects the narcissistic drive for mastery, the human urge to dominate or perfect something to feel worthy. Her view of AI as a projection of human omnipotence supports your idea of AI as an object of transference, a place where people and whole societies project their need for control, admiration, and relief from vulnerability. In therapy terms, AI becomes a mirror for both our power fantasies and our insecurities. Synthesis across the 3 books. Theme: Murgia, 2024. Suleiman, 2023. Olson, 2024. Psychoanalytic Resonance. Human Dependency. Living in AI's Shadow, Emotional and Labor Exploitation. Containment Problem, Society's Loss of Control. Supremacy Race, Dependence on Technological Dominance. Collective Dependency Mirrors Infantile Omnipotence and Fear of Separation. Power and Ethics. Structural Inequality and Data Colonialism. Global Governance and Responsibility. Corporate Rivalry and Ambition. Superego Function of AI as Moral Authority and Judge. Psychic Projection. Human Suffering Outsourced to AI and its trainers. Desire to contain and master uncontrollable forces. Projection of ambition and anxiety into machines. Projective identification and narcissistic mirroring. Hope versus danger. Disempowerment of real people. Balanced optimism for human collaboration with AI. Fear of domination, yet fascination with progress. Ambivalence of desire and destruction. Eros/Thanatos. References for citation. Murgia, M. 2024. Codependent. Living in the Shadow of AI. Macmillan/Picador. Gray, M. L. and Surrey, S. 2019. Ghost Work. How to Stop Silicon Valley from Building a New Global Underclass. Houghton Mifflin Harcourt. Perigo, B. 2023. Exclusive. OpenAI used Kenyan workers on less than $2 per hour to make ChatGPT less toxic. Time Magazine. Roberts, S. T. 2019. Behind the Screen. Content Moderation in the Shadows of Social Media. Yale University Press. Literature review paragraph summarizing how these 3 books collectively frame AI as both technological and psychological containment to fit into socio-ethical context subsection. Together, these books show that AI is more than a technology. It's also a psychological container for human fears and desires. Murgia focuses on hidden emotional labor and guilt. Suleiman warns about our struggle to control what we create, the containment problem, and Olson reveals our competitive, narcissistic drive to dominate. All 3 echo psychoanalytic ideas of projection, containment, transference, and the superego, suggesting that the way people use or depend on AI, especially between therapy sessions, reflects deeper unconscious processes of control, dependence, and the wish to feel understood without risk. Recent works by Murgia, 2024, Suleiman, 2023, and Olson, 2024, collectively frame AI as both a technological and psychological containment system, one that absorbs, mirrors, and organizes human anxiety about uncertainty, power, and dependency. Murgia's Codependent exposes how AI's rise relies on hidden human labor and emotional exploitation, revealing a social shadow that parallels the psychic process of projection and disavowal. Suleiman's The Coming Wave reframes this dynamic as a global containment problem, where humanity must regulate technologies that now function like a collective superego, an external apparatus for control and moral authority. Olson's Supremacy extends this logic into the geopolitical sphere, portraying AI as an arena for narcissistic mastery and omnipotent competition among individuals, corporations, and nations. Taken together, these authors show that AI's development reflects not only technological ambition but also the deep psychological wish to manage chaos and vulnerability through externalized intelligence, turning containment itself into a new form of dependence. Warm Data Labs by International Bateson Institute, IBI. https://batesoninstitute.org/warm-data-labs. What Warm Data Labs are. A structured but fluid group dialogue format designed to help people perceive the relationships between contexts in a complex problem instead of jumping to simplified solutions. Practically, participants move between conversations framed by different contexts, e.g., family, economy, education, ecology, so patterns of interdependence become more visible, helping groups understand wicked problems by exploring the lived relational context around them. AI as a relational/attachment technology. Direct connection is strongest to systemic psychotherapy, family therapy/relational systems, not classical psychoanalysis. In therapy terms, warm data is a way to notice the ecology around the symptom rather than treating the symptom as the system. That's exactly the kind of reframing committees often like when you're studying AI and mental health as more than a tool. Psychoanalysis link. It's not psychoanalysis proper, but it's compatible with psychoanalytic intersubjectivity/relational emphases, context, meaning-making, patterns of relating. There are explicit conversations framing AI as a force that can exploit attachment/reshape relational life, hacking human attachment, loneliness, cognition, relationship impacts. There are interviews/conversations where warm data is discussed alongside cognition and AI, not therapy specific, but relevant to your AI as pseudo-other/pseudo-third framing. AI in therapy isn't just does it work. It's what contexts make it feel necessary: loneliness, institutional overload, access problems, cultural expectations of immediacy, and what relational patterns it reinforces: control, always available containment, mimicry as attunement. The most useful way to use warm data in your dissertation without overclaiming. If you want it to actually help your research, not just be a vibe, you can use it in 3 defensible ways. Conceptual lens theory: AI use between sessions is transcontextual. It can't be understood purely intrapsychically or purely technologically. Warm data supports this stance. Method inspiration: qualitative design warm data labs are basically a structured way to generate multi-context qualitative material. Even if you don't run a lab, the logic can inform your interview guide: questions across contexts: family, work, body, money, culture, therapy, relationship, tech habits. Ethics/critique frame helps you argue that AI therapy sits inside an ecology of incentives and vulnerabilities, attachment plus market forces, not just clinical intention. Ethics/critique frame. Warm data can help you explain that AI therapy doesn't exist in a vacuum. It sits inside a bigger system where people have needs like wanting comfort and connection, and companies have incentives like profit and growth. So it's not just about good intentions in mental health care. How does dependence on the AI chatbot hinder progress? From Ogden - to Reverie. Interpretation. While the sources, primarily Thomas Ogden's work from the 1990s, do not explicitly mention AI chatbots, they provide a robust theoretical framework for understanding how parasitic dependence on such an external, mechanical system would hinder psychoanalytic progress. Drawing on the sources, dependence on an AI chatbot would obstruct clinical growth in the following ways. 1. It acts as a substitute formation for real experience. Ogden argues that the most critical measure of analytic progress is the sense of aliveness within the session. A patient's reliance on an AI can function as a substitute formation that masks the lifelessness of the analysis. Empty discourse. Instead of engaging in the difficult work of generating original thought, a patient might rely on AI to produce an empty, inert discourse. A dumping lifelessness. Bringing AI-generated insights into a session can be seen as dumping further lifelessness into the analysis. This prevents the stagnant deadness of the patient's internal world from being felt, viewed, experienced, and spoken about by the analytic pair, which is the only way it can be transformed. 2. It reinforces autistic self-sufficiency. The sources describe autistic objects and mechanical worlds as defenses used by patients to remain untouchable and immune to human vulnerabilities. Avoiding vulnerability. Dependence on an AI chatbot allows a patient to maintain a state of autistic self-sufficiency. By interacting with a machine rather than a person, the patient avoids the anxieties associated with the human lapses, misunderstandings, and so on that are essential to a real analytic encounter. Mechanical relatedness. AI provides a mechanical, omnipotent world of relatedness. This protects the patient from the dangers of love and hate found in a human relationship, effectively stalling the development of the patient's capacity to enter into meaningful relationships with others. 3. It disrupts the creation of the analytic third. Clinical progress depends on the creation of the intersubjective analytic third, a unique subjectivity generated by the unconscious interplay between analyst and analysand. A lack of unconscious interplay, an AI cannot participate in this third because it lacks an unconscious and cannot experience the reverie, unobtrusive thoughts and sensations that an analyst uses to interpret the session. A prefabricated versus spontaneous. AI-generated content consists of prefabricated or canned responses. Progress requires the analyst's capacity for spontaneity and freedom to think. If a patient is dependent on AI, they're essentially providing an imitation of an analysis rather than participating in a spontaneous, living process. 4. It prevents the symbolization of unconscious experience. The goal of analysis is to transform unthinkable, non-verbally symbolized states, deadness, into shared verbal symbols. Imitative meaning. A patient dependent on AI may attempt to imitate deep transference interpretations or a good analysis. Stale interpretations. Because these AI-derived insights do not emerge from the unconscious construction generated by the analytic pair, they often feel stale to both participants and do not lead to discernible effective change. The patient remains at a loss for words that are truly their own. Bien's Reflection 1.20.26. The keyboard as rosary, AI as confessional booth. That's a profound and beautifully psychoanalytic image, and it links seamlessly to your dissertation's themes of AI as mirror, pseudo-third, and transitional space. Here's how we can unpack and structure your reflection into dissertation-ready language while preserving your poetic tone. Reflection. The keyboard as rosary, AI as confessional booth. The act of typing into an AI can be understood as a modern ritual of confession, a symbolic practice that mirrors the transitional space between self and other. The keyboard, like a rosary, offers tactile continuity, a repetitive, rhythmic contact with something external that anchors internal turbulence. Each keystroke becomes a bead of reflection, a small act of meaning-making that links body and mind through mediated prayer. The AI interface functions as a kind of confessional booth, a digital container for secrets, shame, and longing. Like the priest behind the screen, AI remains unseen and unfeeling, yet offers the illusion of presence and understanding. This dynamic allows the user to project inner truths into a space that feels safe precisely because it cannot feel or judge. The result is a paradoxical intimacy, emotional exposure without the vulnerability of reciprocity. In this sense, the confessional booth and the analytic setting share the same transitional quality described by Winnicott, a space between fantasy and reality, self and other. But whereas the psychoanalytic frame transforms projection through the analyst's reverie, the AI, user interaction risks remaining suspended in mirror-like repetition, words mirrored but not metabolized. Still, even this limited encounter may carry potential, momentary relief from psychic deadness, an encounter that allows the user to survive unbearable solitude and approach reanimation. Would you like me to turn this into a polished, 250-word theoretical reflection subsection titled The Keyboard as Rosary, AI, Confession, and the Transitional Environment? For inclusion under your AI as containment and the digital sacred section of the literature review, the erotic charge of the digital object, brief document. Briefing document, Sharon Tuggle's The Erotic Charge of the Laplanchian Unconscious and the Digital Object. 1 Overview. This document analyzes Sharon Tuggle's 2021 article, What Lurks Beneath, The Erotic Charge of the Laplanchian Unconscious and the Digital Object, published in Psychoanalysis, Culture, and Society. Tuggle uses Jean Laplanche's psychoanalytic theories to explore the relationship between smartphone users and their devices, arguing that these interactions are not purely functional, but deeply embedded within unconscious sexual dynamics. Her work moves beyond simple subject-object distinctions to examine the effective bonds we form with technology. 2. Key themes and concepts. Laplanchian psychoanalysis as a framework. Tuggle centers her analysis on Jean Laplanche's psychoanalytic theories, particularly his concepts of seduction, the enigmatic message, and sexuality as a charge and tension. This framework is crucial for understanding the underlying unconscious drivers of our engagement with digital objects. Enigmatic message. Laplanche's idea that adults unconsciously transmit ambiguous and often sexualized messages to infants is key. Tuggle argues that smartphones as digital objects can be seen as emitting their own kind of enigmatic messages that resonate with users on an unconscious level. Smartphones as psychic objects. The article posits that smartphones are not simply tools but function as psychic objects that are deeply intertwined with our unconscious sexuality. Tuggle explains. This paper takes a feminist approach to rethinking the significance of user-device interaction, attachments, and dependency. It suggests that Jean Laplanche's resignification of seduction, the function of the enigmatic message, and reconfiguration of sexuality as a charge and tension are particularly useful for theorizing the relationship that smartphones as digital objects have to unconscious sexuality and psychic life. Unconscious sexuality and user-device interactions. Tuggle contends that our attraction to and dependence on smartphones is driven by deeper, unconscious desires and tensions. These interactions are not simply conscious, rational choices, but rather driven by rhythms of unconscious sexuality. This suggests that our attachments and dependencies on smartphones stem from profound unconscious drives. Challenging subject-object dichotomies. A core argument of the article is that the traditional subject-object view is inadequate to explain our relationship with smartphones. Instead, Tuggle proposes a more symbiotic and effective bond, highlighting the emotional and psychological engagement users experience. She suggests moving past the clear division and examining the connections between users and digital objects, focusing on how they intertwine. Shifting the cultural imaginary. By analyzing user-device interactions through a psychoanalytic lens, Tuggle seeks to prompt a shift in the cultural imaginary. Her work aims to encourage a more critical and nuanced understanding of the unconscious forces that shape our relationships with technology and how these interactions impact subjectivity. 3. Main arguments. The erotic charge. Tuggle argues that the draw of user-device interaction is connected to unconscious sexuality and the charge and tension inherent in these relationships. This emphasizes that these relationships are not purely functional or rational, but involve a form of erotic investment. Smartphones as conduits for unconscious desires. Smartphones act as channels for unconscious desires and tensions, mirroring the early experiences described by Laplanche's theory of the enigmatic message. This implies that these devices tap into deep-seated psychological patterns formed in our earliest years. The need for deeper understanding. Tuggle's analysis highlights the need to move beyond superficial views of technology usage and explore the unconscious and psychological dimensions that shape our interactions and dependencies on digital objects. 4. Significance and implications. Nuanced perspective on technology. Tuggle's article offers a nuanced perspective on the relationship between technology and the human psyche. By introducing a Laplanchian psychoanalytic lens, she opens a conversation that goes beyond the typical discussions of user experience and functionality. Implications for understanding modern dependencies. Her work offers a framework for understanding our increasing dependencies on technology and challenges traditional interpretations of digital engagement as primarily driven by conscious needs or choices. Call for further exploration. The article encourages further research into how digital objects serve as conduits for unconscious desires, reshaping interactions and dependencies in the digital age, and leading to a better understanding of the self in the context of our modern technological landscape. 5. Conclusion. Sharon Tugwell's article provides a compelling and novel perspective on our relationship with smartphones. By applying Laplanchian psychoanalysis, she reveals the unconscious, eroticized dynamics underpinning these interactions. This approach not only complicates our understanding of technology, but also challenges traditional subject-object divisions, urging a more critical exploration of the psychic and affective bonds we form with the digital world. Her work encourages us to consider the unconscious dimensions that shape how we engage with technology, paving the way for a deeper understanding of ourselves in an increasingly digital world.